So, good evening, students. In today's class, we'll be discussing about. We'll start with methods. Okay. So, in the previous classes, we were just discussing about loops, right? So, we just saw if else, then for loop, and then while loop. We were discussing about some loops. Okay. So, now we are going to enter on methods. So, what is a method? Okay. So, methods are defined as inbuilt or built-in objects present in a Python. Okay, so suppose if I want to add a thing, I just want to give some method, right? So likewise, I have some several set of built-in objects which I refers as a method. Okay, so methods, why they will be using method? So methods is something like instead of assigning something and you want to start your program, methods are predefined things so that you can use it. Okay, suppose if I want to insert as objects into my list, I can just say my list dot insert, which is an built-in method. Okay, so we'll just look on to the we'll just move on to our Jupyter notebook so that I can just show you some examples. Okay, yeah. So methods. Okay, we have already seen a few examples of method when we are learning about in our last classes about objects, data structures and all. Okay, so methods are essential functions which are obviously called built-in function into the inside an object. Okay, so proceeding this course, while we just dedicate entirely, like while we start programming Jupyter, we'll be working with OOPS, which is object oriented programming, that and all, right? So for that, this is the very basic thing. Okay, so coming to the point of what is meant by method. Okay, so methods are something by it performs specific actions on an object. Okay, so we can take it as like a argument, it's a function, right? So yeah, argument will be doing some function, right? So we call that argument as some method. Okay, so I'll just tell you some examples. We'll go through some examples so that you can just know what is meant by a method, right? So first let me create a list. Okay, so list, I have a list. If I want to a list, I should get a square braces, right? So square braces. Okay, so I'll just create a list 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so I just created a list. I'll update it. Okay, so I just created a list now. Okay, so instead of this, I'll just say list is a predefined thing, right? I'll just say my list to be this. Okay, I'll just update it. Okay, see in with the Python, okay, IPython, which is nothing but another platform like this Jupyter notebook, we have some quick access method. Okay, so how can we get that? I'll just tell you. Okay, uh, let me just go with some examples so that I can just say you. Okay, I just say my list. Okay, I just say my list. Okay, it's just ask me what I'm supposed to do. If I just ask, if I press tab in my keyboard, okay, if I just say my list dot which method I'm supposed to use, what are the inbuilt method available in my Jupyter notebook. If I just press my tab, okay, I have the set of methods available for this. So I have what and all I have append, which is going to add something, clear to clear some objects. Okay, so copy, count, extend my list, index which element is in which place, insert, pop, remove, reverse, short and all, right? So if I press simply tab, it just shows me a quick suggestion to like what and all are there in my thing, right? So let me just go on with append now. We'll see one by one what it really does. Okay, so append, we just said me append, right? So what is mean by append? Let me write append. Okay, what is mean by append? So append is nothing but if you want to add, if you want to add some object into my list, I'll be using append. So I'll add some number again, 6 into my list again. Okay, so instead I can just know before entering to that, I'll just tell you Okay, append, I know it is like object. If I want to add an object into my list, I will use append. So in general, how I should get to know about this? Okay, if I press shift and tab, okay, in my keyboard, it will just show me my doc strings. So doc strings, what is mean by doc string? I'm just introducing a name, doc strings, right? So in simple terms, what is meant by doc strings is, doc string is nothing but a set of information about that particular objects in a Python. Okay, so what it is, so my signature is my list dot append. Okay, so how I supposed to use, I should insert some objects or something like that. So this is the basic skeleton. So docstring, what is this all about? Append, so append object to the end of the list. Type, built-in function, or it is a method. So its type is a built-in function or method. Okay, so what it really does, it does append object to the end of the list. So it's going to add some, if you use append, it will just add the element in my last part of my list. Okay, I can just use this. Okay, I can press shift plus tab to get my help, or else what I can do, I just close this. Okay, I can just type help dot, okay, if I run that, it will just get me this, what is this append is all about. Okay, sorry, let me, if I run this, sorry, I don't want to mention here. So if I run this, okay, I just get, if I just use help instead of pressing shift plus tab, okay, I can just make help a predefined method in indeed. If I just say it's just help on what built-in function, the type of the function which is an append. So how you are supposed to use append is like you want to use it like append, and you want to mention the object what you are supposed to use, and then what is this, a method or built-in list instant, and what it really does, it append objects to the end of the list. Okay, so I can get help in two ways, right? So I can just go to that and I just press shift plus tab, I can just know about the method, else I can just type help, so that it will just fetch me the docstring values. So what is meant by docstring again? So docstring is nothing but a documentation on what the exact object, built-in object or method really does. Okay, so we'll start with append. So let me just, we just saw, right, append is something to add to the end of the list, right? Let me just add something. My list, okay, my list have 5 elements, 1 2 3 4 5. I'm going to append. Okay, I'm going to append 6. Okay, if I just run it, it's get updated. If I just see my list again, it's get added at the end, right? So let me just go through with another thing we just saw is count. Okay, so the count method will use to count the number of occurrences of an element in a list. Okay, so if I want to see how many 2's are there in my list, or how many 3's are there in my list, how many 3's are there in my list, there is only 1 3 in my list, right? So get it done, I'll just use, okay, my list, okay, dot count. Okay, so if I want to know what it really does, press shift and tab, so it say return number of occurrences of the value, how many times that occurred in that list. So I'll just write 3. If I just write 3 and if I run it, it says I have only 1 3 in my list. Okay, so what we saw, we just saw append and count, right? So what else we have, my underscore list. Okay, if I press tab again, sorry, if my underscore list dot tab again, I have clear, count, copy, extend, insert, pop, everything, right? So now I'll just give pop. If I just say, and if I just write shift and tab, it just say remove or return an item at index, right? So if I just pop 1, which is the second element, what it does, it just pop out the second element. If I just check my list again, there won't be 2, it just popped out, it removed and displayed. Okay, so you just try the rest of the things. You just come to know, you just type it first. For example, you just type your list name, okay, and then dot, you just press tab, so that what and all available. If you are going to see short, if you press this, and then if you press shift plus tab, you will know what is this stable short in place. Okay, you just keep trying about the rest 7 methods and just know if you find any difficulty in that. Okay, so you were aware, like from this session you were aware, like how to comfortably call a method of objects in a Python. Okay, so we just called 2 methods as of now, sorry 3. We just appended, we just counted, and then we popped out, right? So we were doing that. Okay, so let me go back to my presentation. Okay, we saw some exercises, then we'll move on to the next topic, which is function. What is meant by function? Okay, so function is nothing but, see, in simple term, if I want to say, if you want to repeat your code, suppose, see, I just write a is equal to 10, b is equal to 10, c is equal to 10. If I just write a is equal to some x plus y, something like that. If I just write x is equal to a plus b, and if I want to run that code 5 times, what I will be doing, either I should copy that code again 5 times, or else I want to manually type it for 5 more times, right? So instead of neglecting that, we can just call a function. Okay, so we can just call a function, we can easily execute how many times we want. Like I can just write a code, instead of copy to the n number of times I want to repeat it, I can just mention that it just run for this much time. Okay, so we'll be calling out some block of function to do our like repeating or something like that we can do. Okay, so how, this is the basic skeleton on calling a function. Okay, so first what we'll be doing, so def, this is the main keyword if you just start to study about function. Okay, so what is mean by def? Def is nothing but, see, if you are going to call a function, if you are going to define a function, you are going to call that function, or you are going to define the function using the keyword def. So def, I'm going to state my function name, something like that. So let me have my function name as attendance form or something like that. Okay, so once I just define my function name, I just can use 3 single quotes. Okay, 3 single quotes I can use. I can, and just say I can define my docstring. So docstring, what is docstring? Docstring is a set of information or some documentation to add in our function, so that won't get involved in our code actually. Okay, so I just use my 3 codes to use my docstrings to explain about my function, and then I just I just do my commands for this function. Okay, so that if I done this once, if I call my function name, then my function is executed and just it prints hello. Okay, so we a major example of a function. Okay, so in each and every code, at the last line you'll be seeing some values. some line of codes like return 0 or return void or return 5 or return 2 or return a, like that they will be mentioning, right? So what is that return? Okay, so return is nothing but once your entire code is done, okay, so return me the value. If consider to be I have wrote a function and I want to run it for 5 times. Okay, so what it will be doing, it will just go right, it will read the function, it will come to the end, it will start doing again, right? So that time if I just mention a return 0, it what it does is it just what and all value it get calculated, it just print it out, and while it's going for the next loop it will just assign all the values to be 0. Okay, so suppose if you are doing some iteration, so individually for individual person you will be doing, right? So you don't want the first value to get carried out to the second value, right? So there you will be using return, which is obviously a function. Okay, so here we are just returning, see, I just call a function, I just define a function, sorry, I just define a function named add function. Okay, so in add function I'm just going to give two variables, this is num1 and num2. So in this function, if I call this function, what it will be doing, it just return the value to be num1 plus num2. So if I just call this function, it will just get the function, or this gets the variable value, and it what it returns, returns the sum of these two values. Okay, so let me just go to the Jupyter notebook and I can show you some examples. Okay, let me move on to the Jupyter notebook. Okay, so let me write it. Okay, so function. Okay, so what is the basic skeleton of function? So we want to define the function, right? We want to define the function. If you want, you can use doc strings and then your function values, right? So let me start. Okay, so um, okay, so I'll just start with very basic thing, okay, so that you can understand. So what I'll be doing, I'll just write define my function def. What I should do, then I should name my function, name underscore my function. Okay, I'll just name my function. Then if I have any values, I just want to write argument 1 comma argument 2. Okay, so I just want to write my arguments. Okay, then what else I want to do, then I want to do my run my code here. What corresponding code should be written, right? Corresponding code should be written, and then what after running the code, what should be output? So output here, output here. Okay, so output should be called here. Okay, so sorry, so what we are basically doing here, we just begin with def, then a space followed by the name of the function. Okay, to keep names relevant, for example we are using len is a good name. We can just give, instead of if I want to find the length, okay, I just can use length like braces. Okay, and also be careful with names. You don't want to call a function with the same name, like a built-in function and all are there, no? So don't call like define my append, don't give a name something like methods and all, append short like that, don't give like that. So be careful with that. Okay, so what we does, we just give we just introduce the keyword def, and then we just use the space and then name of the function. Okay, so next what we come, a pair of parentheses, right? So inside the parentheses we just add the number of arguments using separated commas. So first argument and the second argument, we separate both these by a comma. Okay, these arguments are basic inputs of our function. If you are doing something in your function, you have some variables, and if you want get input, those are these arguments. Okay, so once we are doing that in your example, you will just understand that. Okay, so following this, what you will be doing, you must start writing the code inside your function correctly. Okay, once you call this function using this name, this what you are going to write in the below of this, you will be executed in your code. Okay, so let me just start with this. Okay, let me just start with this. Okay, let me just write a function. Let me say, let me define a function. Okay, let me name my function, say me hello. Okay, I just define a function name. Okay, I just use parenthesis. Okay, so if I call this function, what I want to do, if I call this function, just print me, okay, print me hello alphite. Okay, if I just call this function anywhere, it just want to print hello alphite. Okay, I'll just update it. Okay, if I just introduce, I have what I did here, I just defined a function whose name is say me hello. Okay, inside the function, what I supposed to do, if I just call the function, it just want to say hello alphite. Okay, so if I call the function now, simply say me hello. Okay, if I call the function now, what is my output? It just go to my function thing, and if I call the function, what I'm supposed to do, it just want to print me hello alphite. So it prints me hello alphite, right? Okay, so what it does, if I just say, if I define some, see, we just saw in the very basic class, right? Python is a modulo function. We can define, if you have certain task, we can just break it into simple modules, and we can easily combine that. Okay, so if I have a robot, I can just want, if anyone comes, it should recognize them, it should do some task, and then at final, if you want to say hello, means I can just break the last thing, and I can say, I will just define last step print hello, and in my main code I'll just add my this function. At last I'll just add this function, say me hello, like that. So once that code is running, it will just print hello alphite. Okay, suppose I forgot. Okay, so I just forgot. Okay, I the desired output is hello alphite, but I just forgot what function name I was keeping. Okay, so if it is the case, if I just write, okay, if I just write, see, say me hello. If I just say hey me hello, okay, if I just run this, it just say this function main says me hello. So it just say you don't have some variable called say me hello, you instead have a function whose main value is say me hello. So you just try with this, it's saying. Okay, so I can just try say me underscore hello again, and if I use this, it just prints me the function's value. Okay, so this is the basic skeleton. Okay, so what I'm just coming over again. Okay, so I just define a function whose name is this. So I just define a function named say me hello. When I just call this function using this name, it's what it should do, it just print me a value hello alphite. So when I just call this say me hello function, it just prints me the value. Okay, so this was the basic thing about function. Okay, so let me just go a little deeper. Okay, so let me just start you to do some accepting parameters. We were just seeing, right? Here we were seeing where, here we were seeing, yeah, here we are seeing some argument 1 and 2, but here we didn't mention anything, right? So I'll just go to the next step of like how to collect arguments and how to use that. Okay, so here what we are saying, just we call this function, it just prints this. Okay, so I just rewrite this, define a function, say me hello, this is my function name, and inside that I just say name. Okay, I just give a argument called name. This is something what are not what anything it can be, it can be g something like that. Okay, so I just give name. Okay, so I just what I said, I just defined a function called say me hello, and argument I gave name. Okay, So in the second line, what I'm doing, I just want to do, I just want to write the code. If I just want to say call this function, what I'm supposed to do, print me the value, okay, print me the value hello, hello, and then what it's right here, name, okay. So it's what it's doing, hello name, okay. So if I run this, see, it's get updated when I just call my function, okay. Say me underscore hello, suppose I give my name to be Naren, okay. So if I give like this, if I run that, I just get an error. So what is this? So what is he saying here? So you just trace back most recent call loss. So this function occurred in the most recent of your writing. Okay, so it just starts with a single line, say me hello dot narrate, right? So what is the error here? If anyone can just look it into, I'll just give you a couple of minutes, okay, so that you can just look into it. What kind of error we got here? Okay, you people might not be aware. I'll just write the code. Okay, I just correct it. Once it is done, you just can what to say, you can just say what actually it does. Okay, I'm just adding one F here. Okay, so if I run it, okay, if I run it, I'm just getting the same error again, right? What is the error what I'm getting? Or see, we just saw basic thing. When we wrote here, it just got my thing. If I just give my argument and if I just type something, I'm getting an error. Why this error is coming? Why this error is coming? See, even if I write f, okay, let it be, I don't want to confuse you much, okay. So here we just included an argument, right? Here we just included an argument, okay. Here we just included an argument. Here what we are going to do, we are going to define that argument, okay. So here it's saying that name Naren is not defined, right? So here we are not going to define any variable or something, we are going to use some strings, right? So if I just run it, you just say hello Naren, right? So what mistake we did, we were not introducing any variable or arguments here, right? Instead what we are going to do, we are going to get the value for this argument Naren here. If I just add that, it will just execute in this here. So when I just print this, it will get this. Okay, I'll just show you in another example. Okay, so I'll just create def, okay, uh, hello world. Okay, I'll just write hello world, that is my function's name, and I say uh, I'll say some even name. Okay, so I'll say name. Once I call this function, what I'm supposed to do, it just print me the value, okay, hello, hello, uh, from the name, this name, it should get picked up, okay. It just get picked up, okay. If I run this, it gets updated. It just, if I write hello underscore world, okay, if I just mention some name called Manoj, okay, if I just say Manoj, when I just say, what is say, just write taking the argument as Manoj, and then it prints hello, and then its name here as Manoj. What we give here as Manoj, right? So here comes the next question. Why we are using this f? What is that f is all about? Okay, so in before and all we just printed, but here we are using some extra word, that is f. What is that f is all about? Can anyone just tell me why we are using that f? Okay, so I just clear this f, and if I run it, if I update it, it just gets me the exact thing. So in previous classes, if we just write, if you write something like print me, if you write inside single or double quotes something, if you write, what it does, it won't even think for anything. It just, what it does, whatever is there inside single quotes, it just prints it, right? So we want to tell the compiler that we have mentioned a dictionary inside it. So what we are going to do, we are going to add a letter f, which say, it intends say we do have a function inside it. Okay, so what it does, okay, they have mentioned some f, letter f, which indeed means you have some function inside your string. Okay, so it just calculates here. Once if I write f, you can see the color changes here. If I just write, the color changes. Okay, you got some function from the you had some function here. Okay, so the function's value will be derived from the argument. So if I run it again, if I build it, and if I run it, okay, it just get updated, right? So the very next thing is, people were seeing, right? I was just discussing before also, right? So what is mean by return, returning 0, returning 1 and all, right? So for that we'll see some example. Let me call another function define adding two numbers. Okay, I'll just call name my function as add num. Okay, so what I supposed to do, I just want to get two numbers, right? So I'll just keep num1 num2. So I have I defined a function named add num, where I will be having two arguments, number 1 and number 2. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I just defined it and then enter. So when I call this function, what it's supposed to do, it should return me a value. It should return me what it should return me. Once I call this function, when my code, if I just say my function, call my function add num, and if I input two numbers, what it's supposed to do, it should add those numbers, right? So return me number 1 plus number 2. Okay, so what we did here, defined a function called so, and we just say we will be giving number 1 number 2 two arguments. If we give two arguments, you should return us a value which is equivalent to number 1 plus number 2. If I run this, it gets updated. If I call the function add underscore num, and if I just give two numbers 3 comma 4, okay, I'm just calling the function this, and I give two arguments, number 1 to be 3 and number 2 to be 4. If I run this, it just it returns me the value which is equivalent to number 1 plus number 2, which is 7. Okay, you got it? So I can just write it in this variable also. I can assign a variable to be this. Okay, so I have a function def. I can define a function named this. I will be inputting two arguments. I see I have mentioned two arguments. If I just give only one arguments, it just say add num missing one required position number 2. You didn't mention number 2. What I'm supposed to do? It's asking me. So make sure how many things you mention, that many inputs you are supposed to have. If I have something extra 3, 4, 5, what it does? It says take two positional arguments but given 3. You have mentioned only two arguments but you gave 3 inputs. So correct it. Okay. So how much you have defined, you just give it according to it. If I run this, it just gives me this. Okay, so this is what we call some return function. Okay, so I'll write some more examples so that you will be familiar with how to use a return and all. Okay, um, let me write. Okay, let me just start with the basic thing. Define some function named get me a result. Okay, get me a result. Okay, this is my function name. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to get two values, number one, number two here, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to return the value which is num1 into num2. What I'm going to do, I called a function called get me result, where I'll be getting two inputs, number one and number two. What I'll be returning, number one into number two, right? If I just update it and if I just call get me result, okay, get me result of, okay, 2 and then 5, which is 10. 2 and 5, it is 10, right? So now I can just again write def. I can just show magic to people, like I'll just call a function define magic, and then I'll just say magic of num1 comma num2. Okay, I'll just say I'll return a value. I'll say num1, okay, plus num2. Okay, I just updated. I can just say my people, okay, instead of doing anything, I'll just do a magic. Like if I say magic of 10 and 5, I didn't mention anything. If I run it, I just get my addition. Okay, so what I did here, I just defined a function named magic, where I will be getting two inputs. So return what I should suppose to return. I just supposed to return number one plus number two. So when I just call the function and just say two things, two inputs, and if I just what I'm getting in return, I'm just getting the number one plus number two, which is 15, right? So this is the basic return function. Okay, so the very next thing what we are going to see is adding some logics to internal function operations. So what is that? What you are going to do? You are going to add some logics, right? So far we just know quite a bit about constructing some logical statements, right? Addition, subtraction, boolean. We were doing something, right? Multiplication, power, square root, something like that, right? We just saw if, else, elif, while, for loop, right? For checking an item in a list or not in a list, we were using some useful operators and all, right? So now what we are going to see is some operation, some sort of operations we can do with our function. We just saw before, right? If I want to find even or odd, okay, I can just do 2 modulo 2 again. So if we do modulo means what it will be getting, what is the remainder you are getting, you will be getting, if you use modulo function you will get the remainder, right? So if I run that, it will be 0 because 2 divided by 2, remainder will be getting 0. So I can just say whether I want to find even or odd function, I can just make 3 modulo 2. I can use modulo 2. If I just get my output to be 1, it is an odd function. If my output to be 0, it is an even function, right? So in boolean also I can get, right? So I can just say I'll write an input value 3 divided, sorry, modulo 2 if it is equal to 0, which means what I'm getting here value, if it is equal to 0, if I get true, it is an even number. If I get false, it is an odd number. So 3 modulo 2 is 1, which is not equal to 0. If it is false, then it is an odd number, right? So we can use this simple thing, right? So the next thing what you can see is I'll just use, this was the basic thing we were seeing, right? So I'll just use a function to define the same thing. Okay, I'll call a function called check underscore even. So what I'm going to do, I just called a function called check it is an even number. Okay, so I'm just going to insert only one number here, num1. Okay, so what I'll be doing here, I'll just close this. When I call this function, what it should see, it should return me whether it is true or false. So num1 modulo 2, if it is 0 0 0 0, sorry, equal to 0. If I just write this, if I input some number, if it is even number, it will be a modulo of this will be 0, so I will be getting true. If it input an odd number, modulo won't be equal to 0, I will be getting the statement as false, right? So if I run this, okay, if I just say check underscore even, and if I just say 9, it just give me false. Okay, for 9 is not a even number. If I check underscore even, and if I say the value of something to be 6, if I write this, it is true. Okay, so then it is an even number. Okay, this is a simple thing. We just use this. Now we called a function. Every time I don't want to insert the modulo function, instead of that I can just call a function. I can just insert in the value, supposed to be like that. Okay, so the next thing we were seeing us, we'll see something like, okay, check if any number in my list is even. Okay, I'll just define a set of lists. If I have some values, okay, if I have some values supposed to be have from 1 to 10, just check me the value. So check me what and all numbers in my list are even. Okay, we'll start to write a function based program. Okay, so we'll just call a function, define a function whose name get me even number. Okay, so we'll define the function. I'll just open this. I'll be getting a number instead of number. What will be getting here? A list of number, right? So let me just write simply. If you write numbers also, it's fine. Okay, so I'll just say number list here. Okay, so I'll say I'm going to input a number list. Okay, so what I'm going to do, first it should go into each and every numbers in the list, right? So how it will go to each and every number? So if we just think of, if we want to go to each and every number, so what comes into your mind? Iteration. So iteration means for loop, right? For loop is for iteration, right? So we'll use for number in, where, in which list, in this list, right? Number underscore list. So number in number underscore list, what I'm supposed to do, just check if number modulo 2 is equal to 0. If it is equal to 0 means that it is an even number, right? So what I will be doing here, so I'll just write, if it is equal to 0, return me a value, return, I can say true, right? Else if it is not equal to 0, so what is this then it is an odd number, right? So else it is an, just pass it, something like you pass it. Okay, so if I just created a function like this, right? So defined a function called get me even number, where I'll be inputting a number list. For again we have to do iteration in each elements in the list, right? So I say for every numbers in a number list, just check if number modulo 2, if I just divide one modulo 2, if it is equal to 0, then get me a value true, else pass. Okay, if I just update it, okay, I'll going to update it. Okay, I'm going to update it. What is, before entering it, I just say pass. What does it means? Pass means if it is if that number is equal to if that number modulo 2 is equal to 0, it just prints 2. And if it is not, okay, if it is not, it just pass it value. It just start running the loop again. Okay, let me just check the function. Okay, so let me write a function, let me call that function, give me even number. Okay, if give me even number, okay, if I say open this and I'm going to give a list, right? So list means square braces, 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5. Okay, if I run this, what I'll be getting? I got true. What is meant by true? Simply true. So here what we did is, here I have 2 where I'll be getting 0, right? So I have 2 4. So I my what is it? My function or my argument have some values which is equal to 0, so it prints me the value true. Okay, see here people what they will be doing is like, yeah, they will just call the function get me even number without using this parenthesis. They will just open the braces. Okay, or else they will be, what they will be doing is, else they will say return me a value false. Return false, they will be writing like this. So what if we do like this, it will see, if I just run it, if I run it again, okay, if I run this and if I run that again, what it's doing, let me just give this, give again, so it's giving true. So if it is this, then it is true. But see, if it some cases, right, if it is some cases like you have only odd numbers or only even numbers, there might be a confusion like, so once you run the program, if the first number is not even or not odd, not satisfies your condition, then it may get you false. So what you are supposed to do, you don't want to write anything here, you want to just pass the function, right? So instead, if you want to say whether it is false, I can just say if this is 2, modulo is 0, then just return type, else pass the function. While passing, just say return false. Okay, sorry, it's false. Okay, if I write this, okay, it just updated. If I just write only 1 3 and then 5, if I run this again, it gets me the value false. I don't have any even value, so it gets me false. Okay, so this set of program only says you have an even number or not. We'll just go into some more deeper so that we can, in a list, we can pick out the even numbers. We can just create another list out of a list for even numbers. Okay, for that what I'm going to do, I'm going to define another function. Okay, I'm going to define another function whose name is pick the even. Okay, pick the even. So I'll just say number underscore list. Okay, I just define a function name pick the number, and what I did, I'm going to insert a number list. So I go to next line. Here what I'm going to do, I am going to the same thing what I'm going to do it here. This is what I'm going to do. Okay, the same thing, the same program I'm going to write here. Okay, so what it is here, what changes should be done from numbers in number list. Number list, if number is percentage modulo is 2 0, then it's an even number, right? If then it will be printing true, else it will just pass the function and it will return, right? So here we want to pick the function, we want to print that function, right? So before entering to that for loop, let me add one more line. What means I'll just name a variable even numbers in my list. Okay, I just add a variable whose value is a empty set. Okay, empty set. Okay, okay, see here, I just assign a variable even numbers in my list an empty set. Okay, first what it does for number in number list, what we are going to feed, if modulo is 0 then it prints true, right? So in the same way I want to add it in this list also, right? So what I am going to do, I am going to, if number is 2 like it is 0, what I am going to do, I am going to add that element into my list, right? So my list name is even numbers in my list, right? So let me copy it down and I paste it here. I am going to add the list with that number what we are going to get, the number we are going to iterate, right? So we are going to insert the number. So if it is modulo 0, then the list will be updated with that exact number. Then it will return true, or true is not necessary, right? We are adding that into it, right? Else, what it does, it just passes the value. And at last what it should write, once the entire program is done, it should return me the value of the entire list, right? So if I run this and if I update it, okay, just updated. If I just give, if I call the function pick underscore the event and I say I'm going to give, if I give 1 2 3 4 5, is this correct? No, I'm going to insert a list, right? So if list means I should use square braces, right? So I use a square braces. I'll just give set of numbers 6 7 8 9 10. Okay, I just gave some numbers. If I run it, it picks me the value 2 4 6 8 10, which is an even number. Okay, if I just check something like, if I have only odd numbers 3 5 7 9 like that only, if I run it, it will be empty set because nothing just follow, just what to say, nothing satisfies this condition. So it just at last I'll be getting only an empty cell, right? So this is what all about function. Okay, so we'll just dedicate some few minutes. Okay, so we will dedicate some few minutes for interactive session, so that we just saw methods, what is a method, what is some inbuilt object present in the method, what inbuilt object really does in our Python environment. Okay, so then we just moved on to function. So what is a function, how to call a function, how to define a function, what function really does. Okay, so after function, what is a return function, what to return function does. So we'll saw some examples, right? So if you have some example, sorry, if you have some queries, you can just ask me, you can just ask in your chat, so that I'll be ready to answer you. Okay, in tomorrow's session we'll just go little deeper. Sorry, in tomorrow's, in the sense in Monday's session, so it is weekend, right? So in Monday's session we'll start with what to say, we'll start with this what to say, interaction between functions. We will call two functions, we'll interact with the functions. Okay, we'll just return tuples for unpacking, we'll write a set of tuples, we'll use function to unpack it. Okay, we'll just see that. Okay, once it is clear, it will see that. And tomorrow we'll be having doubt clarification session. Okay, 1 hour will be dedicating fully for clarifying your doubts. The current session, like you have this entire week, right? What are all thought, if you have any doubts or if you struggle at any point, you can just ask tomorrow. Tomorrow is not a mandatory session. If you want, you can just attend the session. Timings will be updated in your WhatsApp group. Okay, So apart from this, attendance link will be shared once this interactive session is done. You just do mark your presence. Okay, so tomorrow in Monday's class, I mean it's the next class, you'll be just studying about returning tuples for unpacking, and then we'll just use the relationship between, like, interaction between the functions. Then we'll just see star args and star KW args, which is like arguments and keyword arguments, which are the basic, very, very, very basic and important things to be learned in Python. Okay, so I'll just dedicate this 10 minutes for your what to say interaction time, so that if you have any doubts, you can just ask me. Okay, post this, we'll just close the session. Let me just stop my screen so that I can just concentrate on my chat. Okay.